Alright, let's get back to work. Alright, it's watch window time. It's watch window time. As a watch window. Okay. I need to wash my my wrist braces. They are getting kind of dirty. Okay, so um here's the var create thing. That's an example of what I need to do to set the variable. Um, the problem is that well, what does that star do? Oh, why does my wrist hurt? Um, let's see here. Var create. Okay, so which allows monitoring the results of a variable, results of an expression, a memory cell, or a CPU register. The name parameter. Oh. This is the string by which the object can be referenced. It must be unique. What is a floating variable object? Floating. I really wish they picked a different word to describe floating variables. You know, man pages are nice because at the bottom of man pages are like related terms, or like see also, which is nice. That's a nice feature for documentation. And then you could just have like a floating page for floating variables. Come on. Machine interface. There's got to be a way to get to this. Floating. There we go. Alright. Variables are object-oriented machine interface. It's MI interface is redundant. Whatever. Have a hierarchical tree structure. Okay, interesting. Hey, Alan. How are you doing? I'm doing okay. I'm implementing a watch window, so I can watch things. Are you working this weekend? Okay. So what I need to do is the debugger needs to keep a table of like which things it's watching. So value expression. Nice. Nice. Awesome. Cool. I wasn't sure if you were working on four coder stuff anymore. Like you had mentioned it was going to be like a few months or something. And like I was like expecting, all right, well in a couple months he'll like spend a whole month on it. But if this is four coder month, then that's awesome. I will rejoice in a new build of four coder. Having roommates is always a gamble. We've had some bad roommates and some good roommates. So I hope you either know the person who's moving in, or I wish you good luck in the gamble that is having roommates. All right, so I guess right now, the roommate's an old friend. Cool. It is not four coder month. I just need a little side project. Nice, nice. No pressure. I understand how it is. Hey, while you're at it, while you're here, I want to pick your brain. So, so, so like this isn't ready yet. Like no one, like even people who have access to like, test builds, like don't have access to this yet. But like one thing that like the next like big thing that I want to do is I want to like implement a customization layer. Sort of like it's heavily inspired by like four coder. And like I mean this is all just like junk stuff right now. But basically, what it allows the person to do is they write a file. This is sort of like a complex example, um, because this is set up for hot reloading. But like, where's the shipping version? Like, this is the shipping version of the code, of the main code. And basically, I mean, this is like a C++ version of the API. And so, like, naturally, I'll have a, I won't force the end user to have C++. I'll provide a C compatibility layer, or, I'll probably, since GDB works for like a bunch of different languages, I'll probably just like just generate bindings for like Python and like Node.js, just because it would be like really easy to do that. But anyway, so like you write a main, you write a basic a program, and you basically just grab the debugger and initialize it. Run engine start or whatever. And then, like, you could just do whatever you want in this loop. Like, this basically just sets up a basic GUI loop. And, like, there's nothing in it right now, because, like, frame done, basically just goes ahead and does all the basic stuff. But, like, this is the version that I'm running right now. And if you notice, so this is structured a little bit differently, because I have a dynamic reloader that just runs this. It's kind of complicated, and I can go into it if you're interested, but this is like the exact same thing, except for the fact that the reloader is what's responsible for calling all these loops. And so you can't. So this would be like the contents of that for loop, and I basically implemented my own window, like another window 3. That's like, this is like the one that's part of the customization. Like, the customization layer is what's responsible for this window. Everything else is just the default, And, so you could basically like write your own, functions and do stuff. And also, like, the GUI is like separate from the actual core debugger. So, like, you don't have to run a GUI at all. Like, if you wanted, you could just have, like, if you were writing a tool or something that was like, hey, load up this file and evaluate this, thing or whatever. So, I mean, there's not much you can do with it, but, whatever. I don't know if you can see where I'm going with this or not, but, like, for example, in this custom version of this window, or no, not this one. This is the custom version of the window. Okay, sorry. I have like 2 different binaries that I can load. Like the normal window just has like this normal like setup stuff, but like I was thinking, like, for every project or something, you'd probably just write a configuration file for whatever your workflow was. And, you would do stuff. Like, and so, for example, like, my customization file for, like, one of my other projects is, like, does this whole thing of, like, spawning off, a GDB server in another, on another machine, and it connects to it and sets up SSH and, and then connects to it and all that. And I've got all of that functionality baked into, like, one of these buttons. So, anyway, so I guess what I was wondering is, like, what are your thoughts, if anything? Because I know that you've implemented a customization layer for people, and there's probably a lot I could learn from that. If you had any thoughts or anything or concerns, I know that like making it C++ based is probably like a really big concern, but I'm just doing that because it was convenient for me and because I wanted to try it. Like nothing is set in stone, of course. So, um, it'll get pretty verbose if I try to discuss it all. All right, well, I don't know. Like whatever is most convenient for you. If you'd rather like talk over email or like hit me up on Discord or um, or you just want me to like wait until I have like specific questions or like as things come up later or whatever. I pick a top one tip. Okay, awesome. I'll take a number one tip. While you're formulating that, I'll try to figure out what I want to do with this watch window. So, we need some way to like keep track of the watches, how old the watches are. Well, okay, before I get into all that, let me just start with something simple. And I'll just create a struct here that's like struct watched expression. And I guess I'll have a car star for like cached value. And then a car star for expression. And then we'll have a list here of watched expressions. And then, I know I should probably use like a hash list or something for this. But like right now, I'm like just trying to do like the stupidest thing or the simplest thing, the quickest thing to get something working. And I think for like less than 1,000 entries, you'll never know the difference between a hash table and just a linked list. So I watched expressions. We'll set it to null. And then do watched expression. Expression. Alright, so if, let's do if stir comp equals 0. Oh, here comes the tip. Tip number 1. You've already got this right, at least that's somewhat, it looks like, but avoid using any hooks or callbacks at all. All data should come in through some kind of polling off queue. The API lock on callbacks is a lot worse than the API lock on function that the user calls. Yeah. So, I could probably do this without any callbacks. I don't really have any real callbacks planned. There is one thing, though, that I might have as an optional callback. And that is, like, just some sort of signal from the debugger that there's been an asynchronous update. Because, like, right now, I'm using a file descriptor. Like, the GUI side is polling on the debugger file descriptor that it reads from. And so that's how the GUI updates. Like, right now, like, so this only updates, like, every mouse move or whatever. But, like, if I hit or if I go to load bin 1, rather, and do run restart, oh, crap, we gotta get rid of all of these breakpoints. Oh, and we're still here. Why are we still... Breakpoint hit. I got rid of all the breakpoints. Hold on. Well, what I was going to show you was that, the debugger has to respond to updates from the program because the program is going to do stuff behind the scenes. Like, the program's receiving no input, but it had to register that the program exited. So I just have, like, some sort of file descriptor that gets pulled when that happens. And depending on how the user wants to implement the user interface, it might be beneficial if there is some sort of function that gets called back. So that would be technically a callback, but, I definitely don't want, like, a callback-based user interface at all. And so I think I got that mostly right. But so it's good. It's good to know that I'm mostly on the right track there. So yeah, cool. And so I really don't know, like, what questions to ask. So I'm just sort of winging it at this point. And, yeah, data's more flexible than control flow. Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'll probably save it for, like, I don't know. I don't want to bug you because you're, like, super busy. I have this imagining of like Alan is like super busy and earlier, like, okay, so I was at, so like right now I'm doing the dumbest thing possible for um for the source code reader, because like I wanted to have some independence from forcoder. So like it displays its own like source code in this window here, and this is literally reading the entire file every frame and counting up the line numbers. And so I mean, and surprisingly, it's like super fast. So I mean, well, yeah, for like 100 lines of code or whatever. But I mean, I've tested it on like a 1,000-line program and stuff like that. But I imagine if you got like way bigger, it would, or like 7,000 or something, it would be really bad. It wouldn't work at all. So I was thinking about like caching it, like basically making a linked list of like chunks of the file numbers. So, Safari crashed. Yeah, Safari hates Twitch. So, sorry to say that. Or maybe Twitch hates Safari. I'm not sure. But the basically, I'm loading the entire file every frame, and it works really fast apparently for now. But I imagine that once at a certain point in time, I'll have scalability problems. And like a lot of the code base right now is just like that. Like it's just like the dumbest thing that I've written just to get some functionality out there. So I imagine like a lot of that stuff needs to be fixed before it's a real, solution. Like right now, a lot of the stuff is basically just on, toy level of functionality. So, but anyway, like one thing I was really tempted to bug you about, but I didn't want to because, super busy. But I just want to run this by you real quick while I got you. And that is, if I know the file number, if I know the offsets into the file, I don't have to read the whole file. In fact, I don't even have to read the whole file anyway, because I could just cache the file. Like, all I could do is just cache like what's visible in the browse in the scroll region right now, and then like as they move up and down, I could read into like different parts of the file, and that would be really fast. But the problem is, of course, I'm sure as you're aware, but I'm just saying this, is that translating file numbers to offsets in the file is not very straightforward. And you have to like count them and cache them. At least that's what I was thinking would be the fastest way to do it. And I was thinking of a linked list of chunks of like file numbers. Like, just have a linked list of like 64 offsets. And then each offset would be like each 64th line or whatever. And so I feel like that might be a good balance. Or is there something more better that you would be familiar with? Or I do recognize that this is a much different problem than text editing in 4Coder, because in 4Coder you have to like keep track of like what the edits are, and like I don't have to do that at all. So that's the primary problem you work on in 4Coder. how. So, what was the primary problem? Like just matching up file offsets with line numbers? Because I can imagine that being a difficult problem. Also, have you ever been tempted to, like, just not store things as a flat text file and just store something in, like, a 4-coder specific database that you can just efficiently read from and write to? Just an array that says what the character index is at the beginning of each line. Yeah, okay. Okay, that's cool. Index back to line number is a binary search. I don't think I'll ever need to go backwards. I can't think of any reason why I would need to go backwards. I mean, I'm sure there might be one. Jim is wondering, where can I find the Linux functions for listing files and folders? Is there a Linux version of MSDN? Yes, there is a Linux version of MSDN. The Linux version of MSDN is man pages. So, like, I can do man, I think it's like dir open. Or, dude. Yeah, thanks for the help, Alan. I'll catch you next time. What is the... No, dirent. Dirent, man dash k, dirent. Oh, man read dir. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's read dir. Oh, stream started buffering after the Linux version of MSDN is man pages, and I came back to it can do dir open. Yeah, okay, so it's read dir, readdir, and you can just do man read dir, and so this is sort of like the Linux version of MSDN. And like there's like indexes. I just forget how to get to them. And there's also info pages too. Info dir read dir. This is just the man page, I think. Yeah. So, Ubuntu does this thing where it'll just in order to have like ensure that things get documented, they just copy stub material into man pages and info pages, and it's not actually the full version. Okay, it's user share docs info. What is it? This it's actually honestly the man7.org is probably better, if anything. Or they'll have like the non-stubbed version of that. Actually, there is I think DIE Linux isn't a good one. Reader. So, here, let me, that might be good too. I mean, they're probably essentially the same page at this point, but some, like, for example, like man pthreads here, or man pthread creates. Like if you don't install the POSIX version of the man pages, you'll get like a worse man page, and it's really dumb. So are you on Linux now, Jim? Is that what's happening? I'm surprised you're still awake, Jim, as well. Figured you'd had gone to bed at this point. Oh, okay. I have no idea what you're talking about in Sabat. Okay. I really want Watch Windows to work, so I'm going to focus in on that. Android might be like totally different than Linux. Like, I mean, it is Linux, but I don't know. Android's like really strange. So this is how you get it. This is Reader is how you get it to work on Windows. So I mean on Ubuntu and Arch and Gentoo and Red Hat and stuff like that. So I really can't speak as to like how to make stuff work on Android because I haven't really developed for Android. So I don't even really know if. Yeah, it probably would work the same on Android. Like, because I was trying to think of like, Android really doesn't have like a file system like Linux does, or like desktop Linux does, where like the layout is different. But I'm sure it actually does have a file system. It's just laid out differently. Yeah, and I don't even really know like what the permissions are. So the way I have a vague understanding of like how each like process runs in its own like as its own virtual user. I don't know. So, well, it's cool. I've never developed for Android. It's hard for me to imagine, though, that that would be the fastest Linux that you could test something on. Like, like a VirtualBox instance or something. I feel like would be a lot faster than trying to test code on a phone. Um, I don't know. I just imagine phones being like so slow. My phone is really slow. Okay, I need to stop talking about things I don't really know much about and focus on things that I do somewhat kind of know something about. And that's my code. I do pretend to sort of know how my code works. Okay, let me stir comp. So what am I stir comping? I guess we need to stir comp the I.watch expression, or expression, and the expression here. And if that is equal, then expression, watched expression. Let's change expression to expression text. And and we'll change that to text, and we'll change this to text. And we'll do watched expression equals I break. Okay. And so then we'll have an expression. And then what do we want to do? Like if watched expression, so if it's null, then let's logic to a new one, or folloc to a new one. And then we'll do, so it'll be like watched expressions. And so it would be like expression equal, or watched expression. Okay, and then do what do we got here? So this right here would be, this is when we need to create the expression in GDB. So humbug Are you working? Hey Jim, are you working on your text edit, your Xbox text editor thing? I hope I'm not thinking of the wrong person. Sorry, I get scatterbrained, and if that's totally the wrong person, then I apologize to both people. But okay, I thought it was you who was working on that. Sort of, meaning I totally got it wrong, or you're doing something slightly different now, or sort of in what you're doing is tangentially related to that. Oh, okay. Nice. So, var create here.